All right, boys, so as the title suggests, this is the squat version of the bench press workout tutorial that I just made yesterday. So with making a good squat workout, there's less things that you got to consider versus a bench. But first and foremost, it does always start with that movement prep. So for this, I love anything where you're walking backwards in reverse under resistance. So like a sled, that assault bike, a treadmill where it's even like broken and you just walk backwards and you're pushing the belt with brute strength. Anything like that allows you to get your knees over your toes, work your VMO, get lots of blood flow through those avascular areas of your knee that don't otherwise get it is going to be really good for priming you to squat. The next phase of a good squat workout after the warm-up is, of course, your main squatting exercise. So here's where I'll make the delineation between someone who's just concerned with hypertrophy versus someone who is concerned with carryover to other big lower body lifts such as the deadlift, and then just overall brute strength in general. So for guys of the former, you're just going to pick an ATG squat variation. Plat squats are really good. I really love programming. Anyone who works with me will kind of laugh at this, but my sets of 15 on my plat squats descending, usually, RPE based, and then it goes down. But those are really good. They're all ATG. Or for my guys who love strength and carry over to deadlift, a squat where you're thereabouts parallel. So it's either parallel, slightly above, or slightly below. You don't want to deviate too far from that just because the goal is to lift the most weight possible. It's going to have fantastic carryover to your deadlift. And it's also going to give you a movement that you can feed with these other like lower tiered exercises that we're going to talk about in a second. Sandwiched between the rows, or maybe even after the rows, depending upon which variation you end up picking, I usually like to put some sort of hip hinge. Now, if you're going to do RDLs or deficit RDLs, put the rows after the squats. You're going to need a little rest for your lower body. But if you're going to do back extensions like what I'm doing here, I like to put those after the squats, before the rows, just to give you as much rest before your second squat accessory as possible. So snatch grip GHD back extensions kind of give the best of both worlds. I've done all sorts of back extensions. They give you a lot of upper back. They give you a full range of motion on your hamstrings and on your glutes. And they're just fun, bro. Like, they give you that deadlift aspect where you're pulling it off the ground. And it gives you a nice isometric contraction at the top for your spinal erectors. I was pumped after that. So it's a fantastic exercise. If you want to pick deficit RDLs like you see me do, those are a great exercise. Like I said, put them after rows if that's what you're going to do. Now, in terms of which row you pick, you've probably heard me or seen me repeatedly do seal rows and repeatedly say in the comments, chest supported rows are way better because they spare your lower back. But then you just saw me do this deficit rows. Really light, but a deficit row nonetheless where my lower back is getting loaded. Here's where you have to adapt these best practices to yourself and just make the best decision depending upon your circumstances. So if you watch my Q&As or just any of my bro talks, you'll know that like I have high hamstring tendinopathy that I'm recovering from. It's about 90% there, and I'm in the stage where I need to start loading that end range of motion with my tendons and that hamstring that attaches into my glute with a resistance exercise, and not just the eccentrics that I used to make the injury feel better and get it to the point where it's at now. So there's a decision I had to make. I'm like, okay, I can either do lightweight RDLs, which is just going to interfere with the hip hinge that I'm going to do later, or I can get the best of both worlds. I needed a rest from my seal rows in terms of the intensity. So I took a quote-unquote deload, picked a light row variation that also puts my high hamstring tendon under constant time under tension, my lower back under constant time over tension. I slipped and fell on the ice and messed up my SI joint, that little pizza-shaped bone that's right above your ass cheeks. Pop that back into place. I know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, go to the chiropractor. I'm not telling you to do that, but get it adjusted if it gets out of place. And once the inflammation goes down, you're going to want to strengthen that lower back through that isometric parallel position. It was just a no-brainer to pick those rows in that case. So not only am I building the end range mobility and stability, but also the strength in my lower back. Good blood flow is just a great variation to use there for that purpose. And if you're in that situation as well, pick that. But if not, best practice is a chest supported row. Now, after the rows, and to really finish off the workout, you could do one of two things. You do an ATG squat variation and a hamstring curl, really light, just to get blood flow. Or you can just do more of the reverse stationary bike or whatever you did. The goal with this is just unga bunga, hypertrophy, the most range of motion that you can with the most load that you can, and just getting in quality tonnage. And that's it, y'all. Like, it's not very complicated. With leg accessories that you're going to be rotating in and out, I'm always a big proponent of, with lower body movements, you can go a lot harder than you think you can. 5 reps in reserve on a squat feels much different from 5 reps in reserve on a bench. The energy demands that come with things like squats, heavy hip hinges, is just so much higher than any bench press variation, any overhead press variation, any row, that how you feel almost is a lot. You know, that Mark Rippetoe boomer methodology. It's somewhat true here in that you can push your exertion far higher than you think you can on a squat. 315 pounds is always going to feel like 315 pounds on your back. You see what I mean? So push those harder than you think you can, and then you'll have a more objective view of, say, 3 reps in reserve, and then you just program accordingly, swap them out. The name of the game is mostly range of motion. You want to have something that you're loading your quads primarily and not so much your lower back, so something like a belt squat. I really like these ass to floor Smith machine squats. Hack squats, those are all really good. There's one last thing that you can do just for icing on the cake, just extra bodybuilding. This is more for you bodybuilders, right? So if you want to work the complete function of your quad, you're going to want to work your VMOs and work them in a different strength curve. Leg extensions are the only exercise that you can work and reasonably load in that particular strength curve. They're really good. Like I said, they build your VMO, and that's just going to aid in stability with your squat. A big VMO aids in knee stability. Just think of it like that. So even in a strength training capacity, that's something that you guys could include that are a little stronger, just to make your squats feel better. But that's a good leg day, y'all, in my opinion. Those are the key factors that I like to put in there. If you have any questions, please let me know. Like I said in the last video, if you're looking for a program that's auto-calculated, has everything laid out, check out my Conviction program or Millennium Falcon. Those are my 2 best programs. They're squat focused, and I either focus on barbells for the upper body in the case of Conviction, or weighted calisthenics for the upper body in the case of Millennium Falcon. As I said, I appreciate y'all. Really, like, dude, we've been blowing up. So you new guys, go ahead and check those playlists for programming, injury prevention, things like that. There's some nuances here that we talk about in those different videos that I don't talk about here. Check those out and apply the information intelligently. If you have any questions about this video, please let me know. Y'all be easy. Peace.